Okay, let's take our previous calculation and adjust it going forward for a different scenario. Obviously, the future isn't certain, so we need to adjust our retirement calculation for different possibilities. In this case, we're going to start thinking about inflation going forward. We used 4% in the last calculation to show that the $42,000 a year that we needed in income today compounds forward to $136,000 in income in the future. Well, that's a 4% inflation assumption. Let's assume less than 4% inflation, say it's 3% inflation, and see how that changes the amount of money we need to have saved for retirement. So this is the data from our previous example, $60,000 a year now minus a $1,500 a month house payment because we'll have our house paid for in retirement, $42,000 a year needed in income. 30 years from now, we'll need $136,000 in income because inflation will increase prices, so our spending will have to increase as well. We anticipate $36,000 of that coming from Social Security, so we need $100,000 from our own personal savings. 4% is our compounding rate for our savings in retirement. We use 4% because it's fairly conservative. You could certainly use that as an adjustment in other calculations. And we have a $250,000 cushion for our estate, a 30-year retirement, which means we need to save $1.8 million to afford our lifestyle of $42,000 today for 30 years, assuming $36,000 in Social Security benefits. So now we take this previous example and modify it for 3% inflation going forward. So we start with our same $60,000 and we subtract the $18,000 that we're paying for a house payment. We still end up with our $42,000. That hasn't changed. We still have 30 years from now until retirement. And instead of the 4%, we're going to use 3% as our inflation measure. So this is a simple time value of money calculation. N equals 30, I equals 3. The present value equals $42,000. There's payments of 0, and we're looking for the future value of $42,000 compounded at 3% over 30 years. So we simply pull out our time value of money calculator. We hit on, clear, second clear time value of money register. We input the numbers 30N, 3I, 42,000. Present value, 0 payment, compute future value, 101,945. Always a good idea to write down the numbers when you do the calculations so you know what calculation you did and you've got a record of it, as you can easily get confused. So 101,945 means that $42,000 today with 3% inflation over 30 years will feel like 101,945. So we adjust for Social Security, subtract out our $36,000 from that. We can do that easily in the calculator by simply hitting the equals key, which gets rid of the time value of money future value key, and then the change sign key because we don't want a negative here. Then we do 101 minus $36,000 equals 65,945. So we subtracted the 36 out of it, and we get 65,945. So with 3% inflation over 30 years, the $42,000 a year that you spend now will feel like $65,000, and at 4%, it'll feel like $100,000. So that's subtracting the Social Security, of course. So you can see there's a significant difference as inflation rises. The amount of money you need to save for retirement is significantly larger. So let's take this $65,000 a month payment and put it into a time value of money calculation to calculate how much money we need to have saved. So if payment is $65,000, we use the same data as the previous example. The term is N equals 30 because it's 30 years till retirement. We're going to assume 4%, and this is another assumption you can modify, 4% return on our money in retirement, fairly conservative investing there. And then, of course, the present value is what we're looking for. The payment is the $65,000 that we're trying to return every year from it. And then the future value is the estate of $250,000. So we simply put these numbers into the calculator and we find out how much money we need for retirement given 3% inflation, and we can compare that to 4% inflation. So We again clear, second, clear time value of money, start over again. 30 equals N, 4 equals I. The present value is what we're looking for. We need 65,945 in a payment, and we're going to have $250,000 in future value for our estate, and then we simply compute present value. $1.217 million. So basically, 1.2 million is what we need at 3% inflation over the 30 years versus 1.8 million over 4% inflation over the 30 years. So you can see that the increase of inflation of 1% changes how much money we need to have saved considerably because prices will be higher. Now this is an example of just one variable, the inflation rate, that you can modify during the retirement calculation. There are several others, and we'll do other examples of this going forward.